Alrighty, we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Breaking news. Carlos Correa, his time as a New York Met has looked like it has come to an end just before it even began. Same thing transpired that we saw happen with the San Francisco Giants. So another go around. Here we go. Carlos Correa is not going to be a New York Met. And I'm going to be expanding to every single one of you guys on the live show here right now. One, why I'm not surprised by this. Two, what was the falling out between the Mets and Correa from what I know to this point? And three, why the Twins were able to come in and essentially get Carlos Correa overnight. There's a lot to get into here. There's information that I have not been able to speak publicly about that I'm now going to be able to share with you guys because this result has officially become public. But shout out to everyone for chiming in the live show. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe as always. I know we got disappointment. Trust me, I'm very disappointed. I'm not happy to see Correa on a different team that is in the Mets. We all thought that he was destined to be a Met over the past roughly 3 weeks of negotiations. That has fallen through, but I'm going to be expanding here in a second and just explain why, to my knowledge to this point, why everything has happened the way it has. But again, thank you guys all so much for being here. Appreciate it. Of course, I have to let you all know that today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs, so make sure you head over to betonline.ag using promo code Bleav at BLEAV. That way you get yourself a 50% off welcome bonus. BetOnline is where the games begin. And now, folks, let's get more into the show. All right, guys. So the deal, Carlos Correa signs with this, Carlos Correa signs on, I actually realized, give me 1 second. I don't like how my graphic is looking here. So give me 1 second. I feel like it's not showing time between slides. Okay. All right, never mind. So yeah, Carlos Correa signs a 6-year, $200 million deal with $270 million total that he can make off of vesting options throughout the first couple of years. And I was informed about this yesterday. For people that were watching the live show yesterday, remember, just about a halfway into the show, like a half hour into the show, when I paused and I was choked up, I had to cover up. I'm sorry, guys. I had to lie to you. I had to do my best poker face because I was not allowed to speak publicly on it. I knew for pretty much a good amount of time now that Carlos Correa was going to be going to the Minnesota Twins. It was at pretty much a 95% when I had first been informed about it. So I apologize for not saying things sooner, but I physically could not, because if I do that, then it ruins everything. The same thing happened with Jacob deGrom and other players I've discussed on the channel. When I've known ahead of time, I can't speak on it until it's official. But my goodness gracious. But yeah, this sucks. I mean, even though that I knew about it, I wasn't happy about it at all. The person that the people that I know in the industry that have known about this even went on, to explain that they didn't want this to happen either, but it still happened. So give me a second as I try to get my bearings straight, and then we'll go from there, because there's a lot of unravel here. We're already getting the articles coming out from Jeff Pass and others. Again, breaking news, everyone, where people first chiming in. Carlos Correa has left the New York Mets before his tenure even started, and he signs a 6-year, $200 million deal with vesting options that can make it to upwards of $270 million. According to Andy Martino, the Mets offer, and this is accurate, the Mets offer on a contract was around $26.5 million per year versus getting $33 million per year as the base, excluding the vesting, with the Minnesota Twins. The Twins were clearly able to take on a lot more risk here than what the Mets were comfortable doing. And for all of us that initially thought that, and I've been saying this for the past week and a half, really since this negotiation started to break down between the Mets and Correa, that I thought initially that there wasn't much into the ankle issue when this happened with the Giants. And I apologize. I said, shame on me for that, because clearly this is an issue. This has been an issue so big and so prominent to the point where Carlos Correa, who looked like he was getting guaranteed $350 million this offseason, is already down to $200 million, with potential of $270 at most based on vesting options in the first, throughout the first 4 seasons of that 6-year deal, I believe. Pending a physical, yes. John Heyman did report as well that the bulk of that physical is handled already. I do believe that Correa is going to be a Twin. I don't think that there's going to be a holdup here that we've seen with others. And yeah, again, further coming out right now, Mets were willing to fully guarantee 6 years at 157.5 million, but the final 6 would have been only conditionally guaranteed. So Correa will make 42.5 million more in his first 6 years with Twins. Mets and Correa couldn't get past the language issue. Story to come at New York Post. So yeah, for people wondering, the Mets only wanted to guarantee half the contract with Correa. From there on, for however long the remainder of that contract would be, nothing was guaranteed. It was based on conditions. It was based on very specific language, having insurance to back it. And all of this, again, led to the point of, okay, we're going to hear what the Twins have to offer. And the Twins gave a more guaranteed offer than what the Mets did. And because of this, that's why the Twins are going to come out winners in the end here. But let me get to some of your donations, guys. I know we have a lot to get into. Like I said, appreciate everyone first chiming into the live show. As I said, Carlos Correa is not coming to the New York Mets. He's signing with the Minnesota Twins. A blockbuster. Again, something that us Mets fans were hoping would be happening for us Mets. And for me as a Mets fan, I'm annoyed by the fact that this didn't happen. Obviously, I really wanted Carlos Correa, as did we all. This dragged out so long. But more than anything, I'm just curious and somewhat concerned on what the Mets do from here, okay? Because will the Mets pivot? Yes, they absolutely will try to pivot. But now the Mets are going to get into a territory that they have shown to this point under Steve Cohen that they are not nearly as comfortable doing, given their lack of depth in their prospect system by trading top prospects for talent. You know, when you think of trade chips out there for bats, the only real guy that comes to mind right now that is destined to get traded and is available out there in the market is Bryan Reynolds. Aside from that, there really isn't much options, and Bryan Reynolds is going to cost you an arm and a leg. So that's why Carlos Correa seemed like such a nice fit for the Mets, knowing that he's only going to cost you. What's he going to cost you? He's only going to cost you just the money itself, right? And of course, the tax that Cohen has to deal with being taxed 90% of every cent he spends after going past the $300 million threshold. So, yeah, let me get into it more, though, because like I said, there's a lot of live updates going on as we speak. Yeah, let's see. Michael Marino had it first here, folks. Give me 1 second. John Heyman just said the numbers. Marino had it first, though. Seemed like Marino 5 minutes ago, Mets offer Correa was 157.5. Martino, right around that time, said that the Mets AAV on the contract was right around 26.5. Okay. I know we got donations, guys. I'm going to try to get to all of them very soon. Bear with me. But right now, I'm just trying to unravel my raw thoughts. If you ordered a jersey before a player actually signs the contract, I didn't. And I'm great. We are going to be doing the jersey giveaway on the channel soon, folks. By the way, not today, but we will be giving away a Justin Verlander or Kodai Senga jersey in a future stream. Just not today. I've been purposely pushing and waiting to do that for when we find out about Correa, but now that Correa is not going to be a Met, now those are your only jersey options to whoever the lucky winner is going to be. I know Darren, I think you did get a jersey. Shout out to you, Darren. Love you, brother. So let's see here. Just breaking down more. So what Correa, the Mets payroll projects to so without Correa, Mets payroll projects to be $357 million for luxury tax purposes. Tax on that would be $87 million. So Steve's team is still all in at around $444 million. And the Mets aren't done making moves, guys. We know that. It sucks that they aren't getting Correa. I mean, a lot of us, including myself, definitely wanted Correa to come here, but now it's going to be curious what the Mets pivot is here, you know? And here's one thing I will say to everybody. Is there a disappointment factor? Absolutely. I'm not happy that Correa isn't Met. I'm pissed off about it. Rightfully so. What I will say, though, is that Steve Cohen sold it to the public. He said how adamant, how much he wanted Carlos Correa. So the fact that the Mets went from 12 years, $315 million to only guaranteeing half of that contract tells you all you need to know. I don't know what it is about this guy's ankle, aside from we know that he had surgery in 2014 and has a plate in that ankle. I don't know what specifically the doctors are seeing, but it must be so prominent to the point where the Mets literally had to cut their contract offer in half on guaranteed dollars to Correa. So from Correa's standpoint, I can understand why he didn't want to do that. And if he's going to do that, he wants to make sure he gets the best bang for his buck. If you're Correa, do you want 33 million per year or 26.5 per year? Naturally, for a guy who's looking for the biggest bag, he's going to go and get 33 between the two. But again, then you look at the Giants offer of 350 million over 13 years. And then the Giants only had like 24 hours after not being comfortable with the physical for then Cohen to swoop in. And I think Cohen swooping in really enticed Correa more. Again, it seemed like Correa wanted to be Met, but as these negotiations went on, it became more clear that, the Mets just were not going to give Correa an offer nearly to the liking that he wanted. I mean, $157.5 million over 6 years is insane when you think about he was originally looking to get $350 million from the Giants. That is insane. Again, something about that angle has to be cooked. Something. And anyone in here saying Cohen is a fraud, you have no clue what you're fucking talking about. The man has spent so much money on this team, has done a great effort, and he will continue to do so. I assure you that this fell out between the Mets and Correa because of just how much the Mets have concern with that risk. That's all. If there was no risk factor here, if the Mets had no risk factor, they would have signed him weeks ago. Okay, so I'm not trying to denounce the disappointment with the Mets not getting him. I myself am very disappointed. However, I will not take Cohen slander at all, even though that, yes, I can understand frustration with him saying how much he was the missing piece, this and that. It's unfortunate. Things turn on its head. They change over the negotiations that we know, going from, okay, we got our guy, to you get the doctors look at the physical and they say, oh no, like you need this to be insured. There's a lot of risk with the ankle. It could be, the plate could be shifting over time. There could be deterioration going on there. Like, again, I don't know. We only know what has been publicly said, that we can only speculate at this point. But my goodness gracious. Yeah, that's really all I got to say on that. Give me 1 second though, everybody, and then we'll go on from here with more on the show. I'm going to answer some donations. Continue smashing that like and subscribe button as you chime in. Greatly appreciate that. Juan says, blessing in disguise where something is up with his... Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't know if it's blessing in disguise right now because I don't foresee the Mets landing a player realistically this offseason that is Correa caliber. So that's the thing. If they make a blockbuster trade, then they prove me wrong and then they make a blockbuster trade. Okay, awesome if they do that. But for a Mets team in a win now stage, I personally was still in favor of the Mets getting Correa with all this risk. But again, that's the selfishness in me as a young fan that wants to see a championship. Don't worry about that contract, even if it's 4 or 5 years from now where there's major risk. I just want to win now, right? And I know that the Mets want to win now. So that's kind of my raw thoughts and reaction to it. The selfishness part of me as a fan really, really just wish that this deal happened, and it didn't happen. It is what it is now. But more so than anything, the Mets don't have a proper pivot in free agency now. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that they were in the wrong for not getting Correa because there was clear concern and risk here, but will they be able to properly pivot? I don't know, and I don't think so. I'll have to be proven wrong. Save for Shohei. Yeah, thank you for the donut. I appreciate that. Let me get it some more. John, thank you for the donation. Let's see. Cohen needs to back up his words about how they still need one more piece. So where do you go from here? Not too many options left. I'm never playing poker with you. Exactly, John. Thank you for the donation. And again, I don't know. I don't know. That's the thing. Let's see. Saw a comment. Give me 1 second. I'm just reading all the comments here. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know where they go from here. According to Michael Marino on Twitter, he said that the availability of Manny Machado hitting the market next offseason was discussed towards the end of the negotiations with Correa, that being the Mets. Okay, so maybe the Mets rather wait until next year and potentially go after Machado for third versus Correa. Okay, but the Mets are going to go all in on Ohtani next offseason as is. Could they land? I mean, I'm not putting anything past Cohen when it comes to spending money, as long as the guys are relatively healthy and there isn't risk the way that there was with Correa. We all know that Cohen will spend the money. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not worried about next year right now. As a fan, I'm worried about right here, right now. That's what matters. So, again, I will give, as annoying as it is, props to the Twins. They swooped in. They got their guy after it never looked like he was going to return from that 1-year deal with a 2-year player option. But they're taking on the risk. They're giving him plenty more guaranteed money than what the Mets were going to do over this time frame. Hold on, I'm checking stuff. Bear with me, guys. Checking tweets, make sure I don't miss anything here. Okay, so this was the Mets' final proposal, folks. This was the final proposal. Phil's just clinched first in division. You bums. Oh, that's cute. Thank you for the money, though. I appreciate the free money. That's awesome. No better than talking shit, but you give me free money as an opposing fan. Okay. According to Bob Nightingale, again, this is what we already said here. This is the following. The Mets' final proposal was a guaranteed 6-year, $157.5 million deal. It would have paid $210 million over 8 years and $315 million over 12 years non-guaranteed. So the Mets still had the 12-year deal on the table, but only half of that contract was guaranteed. So that's the big thing here. Again, it's crazy. It's bizarre to see that the fact that the Mets literally went into it, and then after seeing his ankle, we're like, oh no, we only want to guarantee you half that contract because we have no clue. And I can understand that from the Mets here, but it still just sucks, man. It still just sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. And now Correa has potential to get that contract to upwards of $270 million, depending on the vesting options over time. Adding Correa was a bonus on top of what this team is for the upcoming season. Still a lot of solid. Oh, absolutely, Hammer. Absolutely. Thank you for the donation. But they definitely need to do more. The Mets haven't done any upgrades offensively this offseason yet. They have literally done zero. That's why landing Correa was seemed like perfect in a lot of our eyes, because you get to upgrade a position at third base and you get a premier bat. You know what I mean? So now how do the Mets do this? How do they counter going forward? That's something that will be a wait and see that we're going to be discussing plenty of. I wasn't interested in having to discuss this, but now we're going to be discussing that plenty. Thank you so much for the donation. Let's see. Can you see Mets getting Trevor Bauer? No, not a chance in hell. Thank you for the donation, though. I'm again catching up on all the donations, guys. All in on Ohtani. Now, they've been all in on Ohtani, but that's next year, not right now. How are Correa choosing money over success? I mean, Correa's always been like that. Correa wants the bag. Yes, he would like to. I'm sure that if the Mets gave a similar offer to what the Twins did here, I can almost guarantee you that he would be with the Mets still. But the Mets didn't. That's the thing. There was $33 million per year over a 6-year span, or 26 and a half. And then the contract from there, nothing's guaranteed, right? And I don't even know for the Twins contract. I have to read into it more. You know, how long can that contract potentially be? I don't think it just maxes out at 6 years. I could be wrong. If I am, let me know. I don't think it just maxes out at 6 years, right? So this is interesting. Like I said, Mets had the offer of only guaranteeing half that contract. Insanity, thank you for the donation. I'm glad I didn't get my hopes up for Correa. Yeah, I mean, I had my hopes up for a while. Then it's been a roller coaster. So now, at this point, I'm just happy that it's over with. Not happy with him going elsewhere, but I'm just happy that this debacle is over with. Thank you for the donation, though. Thank you, Insanity. I appreciate that dono. Right, hold on. Just absolutely wild. Breaking news, everybody. Like I said, Carlos Correa is going to the Minnesota Twins at 6 years, $200 million, with vesting options to get it to upwards of $270 million. He's going to be making over $40 million more in the first 6 years of the contract with the Twins than what he would make with the Mets. So in total, $42.5 million was the separator between the Mets and the Twins here, because the Mets, again, were going lesser AAV because they were staying true to the long-term deal, but they were only guaranteeing half that contract. So you can understand the AAV standpoint not changing much, but again, it just, for everyone that thought that Correa was going to be a Met being sold by Correa by Cohen, you know, it definitely is still a bummer. There's no question about it. And it is for me. And I just don't know how they're going to counter here. That's my main thing. I have ideas on how they can counter, but whether or not they will physically and realistically do that is a different discussion. Bro, do you think we have a chance of getting Machado and or Ohtani? Absolutely, I do. 100%. And what do those players have in common that Correa doesn't? they don't have nearly as much health risk, right? That's literally the only reason why this deal fell through with the Mets. If there wasn't health risk, they would have signed him from the jump. Kenny, thank you for the donation. Alberto, thank you for the donation. Criticize Cohen, and you're a schmuck. He deserves better. I'm a schmuck. Chris, wait. He deserves better? Who deserves better? Oh, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I'm sorry. Criticize Cohen and you're a schmuck. He deserves. You're saying this to people that are criticizing Cohen. And now I get it. My mistake. You confused me for a second, Alberto, and I agree. Thank you for the dono. Greatly appreciate it. Ted, thank you for the $5 holla as well. Matthew, thank you so much. We're the bad guys now, right? Pivot to Bauer on the. No, we're not getting Bauer. Thank you for the donation, though, Matthew. Hold on. Twitter is an absolute cesspool right now, guys. It is on absolute fire from this. Cohen got to lay off the liquor. Thank you for the dono. I appreciate that, Peter. Let me get a pull up here in the live stream, then we'll go forward. Mets cannot pin hopes on maybe getting Ohtani and Machado next year. They must make a blockbuster trade. Offense is not good enough. Just ask Steve. Steve knows. Steve knows that the Mets they have a missing piece that they need. Yes, I agree with you. And I'm damn curious to see how they're going to pivot from this. I really am. No, you're not wrong in saying that, though. Guys, calm down. Why have the big name and no, he's not going to be on the field? Respectfully, David Wright. We're a different team, doing things different by not committing to high-risk players. Again, this goes ahead. I understand why the Mets did what they did. Doesn't change the fact that we can't be disappointed and are now, as fans, have levels of concern on how do they properly combat this, right? You know, can the Mets roll into next season and wait till the trade deadline to potentially do an offensive upgrade? Yes, but that's still, we don't want to see that. We want more comfortability at the offensive position, right? So, and I think that's very important. I think Cohen knows that. I just don't know, because I just don't know how much prospect capital the Mets will be willing to give up in a trade. And that was another thing that made Correa so appealing. It wasn't just what he brings to the team now, but it also was reassuring knowing that if you bring him in, then you have plenty of options in the trade route then, with either trading if you want to Eduardo Escobar, Brett Beatty, or Ronnie Mauricio, Mark Vientos. It would have opened up the floodgates more for the Mets to get creative with trades if they got Correa. So now them not getting Correa, they're still in the same spot with their prospect capital where they don't want to get rid of a lot of their top guys. And I don't blame them, but for a team in a win now stage that really wanted to get a guy to help take them over the top now, again, it's tough. I'm just very curious to see how they're going to try to combat this. What is their pivot going to be, if anything? Has to be the craziest offseason Mets history? Yes. It is. It is, absolutely. And this is like Bauer 2.0. Not same circumstances with what led to the decisions, but same in the sense of, just dragging out negotiation. This was even bigger than Bauer. I shouldn't even say that. This was a lot bigger than Bauer. This went on almost 3 fucking weeks, and the Mets didn't even get the guy. Glad it's finally over. Good luck spending the rest of your career in Minnesota. Let's move forward. Get Duvall and Chafin and give Beatty and Mauricio a shot. I don't mind giving the kids a shot. I have no issue with that. I just personally don't love that idea of giving them a shot when there's no guarantee on, what you're going to get production out of for a team that's trying to win now starting this season. Eric, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Let's see. The More to the Point podcast, thank you for the donation. What possible blockbuster trade could the Mets possibly make now that would outshine having Correa? I don't know if there would be anything that would outshine. Again, the only real guy out there that's available in trade right now that is going to more than likely be dealt, but at the right price, is that being in Brian Reynolds. But the issue is that according to Pirates, they really want they want not only top prospects, but they want pitching prospects. The Mets really don't have much pitching prospects. They've already given a fair amount away. Um, they've already given a good amount away in previous trades over the past couple years, pitching prospect wise. I mean, they just trade JT Ginn, who was one of their better pitching prospects last offseason in the Chris Bassett deal. Adam Oller, not so much, but JT Ginn, though, was the stand. So, like, I just think the Pirates will want a king's ransom, and I just don't know. I don't know if the Mets would be willing to do that. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Alec, thank you for the donation. The reason this upsets me is because although we are great, we need to be the best. Right now, I don't think we are. Again, I get what you're saying. I personally, I still think the Astros are the best team in baseball, for obvious reasons. But again, you don't need to be the best on paper to be the best in October, right? I mean, the Phillies just getting to the dance last year proved to me that as much as I want the Mets to win the division, that only means so much to me as it does to just make sure that you're playing competent, good baseball heading into the postseason and hopefully have a deep run. You just need to get hot at the right time. That's more important to me personally than, being an all-star team like the Dodgers, who choked on absolute what against the Padres last year, as did the Mets. So again, I get the whole idea of you want the prettiest team on paper, you want to look like the best, and the Mets are amongst the best as is right now. But I think I agree more so in the sense of I just want the Mets to try their best to at least pivot to a different avenue, because going from thinking you have Carlos Correa to not having Carlos Correa on your roster, that there's a difference. Carlos Correa is a 5-6 top peak in his career, 7-win player. Like, can the Mets get any guy in the trade market at the right price where even if they overspend, it'll be worth it because they're not, say a pending UFA? It's a good question. Sign Duvall and get on with it. I mean, Duvall is a fourth outfielder, though. Duvall's a fourth outfielder / DH guy. Duvall is not going to move the needle the way Correa. The Mets have been involved in the fourth outfielder market regardless of Correa. The belief was that even if the Mets got Correa, that they would still be looking for a fourth outfielder type. So, Dash, thank you for the donation, though. Mets fan, thank you for the dono, too. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to see if there's any updates that I missed. I want to make sure I don't miss anything here. Okay. Now let me get it. Rich, thank you for the donor. Rich says, it's always about the money. He will come in last place for the rest of his career. I mean, no, they're not going to come in last place for the rest of his career. Minnesota is not that bad of a team. They're not Mets good, but they're not terrible. Probably has opt-out in 2 years. This is what I'm curious about. I know that there's vesting options on that Correa deal. I want to know if there's opt-outs, because if there's opt-outs at all within the next couple years and he can hit the market by, say, he's 31, kind of like how the Javi Baez contract was with the Tigers, where he was able to opt out after 2 years. If there are any opt-outs along those lines, then of course I can understand why it's even further appealing for Correa, while he's taking risks on himself of making sure he stays healthy for a couple years until he can opt out again. He is making $33 million instead of $26.5 million with the Mets per year, right? And the 6 years that are guaranteed. But I don't know if there's opt-outs in that deal. I just know that there are vesting options. He needs to not get hurt for 4 years, 4 more years, $70 million to kick in. So I don't see him playing hard or making singles into doubles, etc. We will get better. The Mets are going to be a great team regardless. Okay, this just stings. This hurts because we all were under the belief that the Mets would have Correa, right? These negotiations have gone. They will be 3 weeks tomorrow. Okay, it's been a drag of negotiations. A lot of us, including myself, are just disappointed because of how long that this dragged on for. Okay. Same way that the Giants, even though that was a much shorter time frame, Giants fans were noticeably disappointed about thinking that they got a star player at $350 million, crazy contract, but a lot of fans still loved it for it to then fall through. So that's more than if this negotiation didn't drag on nearly as long as it did, and there was clear concerns with the ankle right away, and it was like, okay, within a couple of days, it's like the Mets are out. This just is not worth it. Then it wouldn't be as much of a bother, at least for me. It's just on how long this dragged out. You know what I mean? I literally asked Cohen to his face over the weekend about Correa when we all expected a deal would have happened by then. Cohen was right though. He did say, I do believe we'll have a resolution soon, one way or the other. That was on Saturday. Today is now early Tuesday. So yeah, he was accurate in saying that it would be happening soon. Just not what a lot of Mets fans were hoping the result to be. You got a text last night, bad poker face. I looked at my wife at the moment and said, we lost. Does Uncle Steve get mad again and make a move? I think the Mets are definitely going to, I know they're going to make more moves. That's for certain. To what degree, we don't know. But yes, no, I was literally informed about this yesterday on stream. And I had to bite my tongue because even though I was informed it, before anything becomes public, nothing's guaranteed. I just heard that it was like at most a 95% chance that Correa is going to Minnesota. So I was like, fuck, okay. But again, those are things I'm not allowed to publicly say for obvious reasons, because if I do that, then I lose my connect. Then my connect loses their sources and so on and so forth. That's just the nature of the game. Literally, like I said, I knew about DeGrom an hour before Pass and dropped and became public. I've known about many moves that have happened, Mets and un-Mets related, over the past 2 years now, from knowing people in the industry. But this was news that I was not happy to hear at all. It's still annoying. I'm not happy to hear it one bit. Really not. No, people are mad, but this was still a great offseason. It used to Porcello, yeah, and Waka. Books closed. See you in the spring train. Thank you for the donation, Luis. I appreciate that. Mets are still going to make more moves, though. I assure you that one. Red Sox are wild trade for Devers. Dude, Brandon, stop it. No, Devers will retire a Red Sox until proven otherwise. I don't mind giving the kids a shot either, but we are in a win now, 2-3. Bingo. This is my exact point, Justin. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Yes, I love the idea of giving the kids a shot. I don't mind giving the kids a shot. I just don't like the idea of giving them a shot and having them be what you're banking on, right? Because look, is there a possibility that the Mets roll into next season where they bank on the kids, and if those kids don't produce properly, say the Mets offense is, just similar to last year where, overall a very competitive and strong offensive team, but when they have their slumps, they really have their slumps and they could use more power. If the Mets make sure they address it at the trade deadline, then okay. But that's still a big question mark on if they will or be able to do that or not. Holy shit. Okay, this is actually crazy. Listen to this, guys. Listen to this. This is nuts from Michael Marino on Twitter. And Michael knows his shit. Source, as part of the Mets offer, Correa would have to take an annual physical, which would guarantee the following year if passed. So 6 years, $157.5 million was conditional on him passing every annual physical. Holy shit. That's asinine. Am I the only one who thinks that is absurd? How bad is this guy's ankle? The Mets literally that makes it believe that's insane. So you're telling me that if the physical didn't look good and say next season or the following season that the Mets could just back out of the deal? So none of the contract was basically guaranteed. There was still a condition on it. Holy fuck. And again, we know how much Steve wanted Correa. That's why he was willing to go 315. This guy's ankle, what is up with his ankle? That's insane. I've never heard such a thing. Thank you for the dono. Horrible news to wake up to. This was like a kick to the groin. Expect the analysts to load up on every left-hand pitcher they can get their hands on. Pat, thank you for the donation. And yeah, a lot of things are still happening in the analysts and with the Mets. This is fucking absurd. ankles. I mean, this guy's ankle has to be cooked. What, like, okay. Let's put up a poll up in the chat, then I'll get more donations. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that report because that's ridiculous. And guys, we have roughly 1,400 live viewers. If you guys can continue smashing that like and subscribe button, greatly appreciate it. Help us get to 500 likes for our next short-term goal in the live show. Really does mean a lot. And also help us get a 25K subs for our next short-term goal. If you guys enjoy consistent Mets content like this, covering the nit and gritty, everything that you need to know about the Metropolitans, good, bad, whatever happens, we are always going to make sure to cover and hear you guys in the live chat and the comments as always. But yeah, this report from Michael Marino, again, for people just chiming in, the Mets, while they were guaranteeing $26.5 million for the first 6 years, and then their second half of the contract for the second 6 years would be up in the air, based on vesting and other things, I'm sure. So only 6 years was guaranteed. But within that 6-year guarantee, there was a condition that that it would only be guaranteed as long as Correa passes his physical properly every year. I've never seen that in baseball before. And I believe it. And I, as crazy as it is, I believe it because Michael knows his shit. Shout out to Michael Marino on Twitter. But that's insane. That's actually insane. Mad Dog Russo is crushing Correa. I mean, he's also a Giants fan too, so he's just probably so fed up with Correa at this point. Juan Papo, thank you for the dono, though. I appreciate that. Wow, okay. Correa is not worth all that money, guys. Calm down. We dodge a bullet here. Spending money is fine, but 26 mil a year for an average bat is dumb. I mean, he's not an average bat. He's not an average bat, and he's a great player. But here's the thing. If Correa has any significant injuries, and let's just talk, not that I wish it on him. As annoyed and fed up as I am about this, I'm not going to wish ill will on the guy, right? I would have loved it if he's a Met. Not going to say, oh, fuck this guy completely because he's not here right now, because that would be a hypocrite of me. I will say this, though. If Correa suffers any significant injuries over the next 2 years, it's going to prove, especially if it's anything with that ankle, it's going to prove Cohen. However, if Correa goes on with his career and he doesn't miss any significant time with that ankle, then it's something that we'll look back on and be like, wow, okay, the Mets should have got Correa, right? But that's something that we're not going to know for quite a bit of time because he hasn't missed any games with his ankle besides feeling a vibration in his ankle with the plate when he slid into a bag this past September with the Twins. He hasn't missed a game due to injury from that specific injury yet. PK, here's the one thing I will say, PK. The Mets didn't miss any true player out there in this Correa ordeal. They didn't. There was no one in the free agent market for the most part, aside from like AJ Pollock or something along those lines, where it was like, could the Mets have maybe gotten those guys if they focused harder? Maybe, but like there was really no one out there in the free agent market like that. And there was no one that was really traded that should have been like, oh my goodness, the Mets should have got this guy, and they didn't because they were focused on Correa. That's not the case. Reliever options that the Mets like are still out there in the free agent market. And for any type of player that they would like to trade for, they're still available. Not saying they're going to land them, but they're still available. So even though that this has been a drag, I don't think the 3-week process really changes much for the Mets. They still have plenty of time to make proper moves for what they want to do. It's only January 10th, guys. Correa is not worth all that money, guys. Oh yeah, I answered that already. Thank you for the donation. I need to get a pull up in the stream. My apologies, guys. Okay. Well, guys, I'm just putting up a poll here in the live show. And continue smashing the like and subscribe on, guys. Really does mean a lot. And thank you so much in advance as we're coming along here. Okay, there we go. Now we got the poll in there. Cool. Question: why can't the Mets get another bat from Japan? I'm not sure what you mean by that. There's no bats from Japan right now readily available. Yes, the Mets were mandating an annual physical. Yep, that's what I was saying, Keto. Yep. Also, I popped on late. What were your thoughts on why we could not or should not have done something similar? I feel like I shared that already, Justin. Again, the Mets have really big concern with that ankle. That's why. And the Mets still had potential of it being a 12-year contract if again Correa passes his physical every year. And yeah, so that's the thing though. Mets stuck with lower AEV because because of they're still basing it on the foundation of a 12-year deal, but they not only half that deal was guaranteed. And the years were only guaranteed in the first 6 years as long as Correa passes a physical every year, which is insane. I've never heard or seen of a contract in baseball like that where it's micromanaged so much, essentially. Where like they're like, that's like complete control to the Mets there. I think Bob Nagel tweeted no opt-outs unless it was deleted regarding the Twins deal. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Omar, breaking news. Correa to return the Astros after Twins deal falls through. I'd rather not have damaged goods. Thank you for the donation, Omar. That's funny. Eric, thank you for the donation as well, too. As a Dodgers fan, I'm happy, but you guys are still stacked team without Correa and look forward to the betting war for Ohtani next offseason. Yeah, that's going to be betting war. I expect it to be the Mets, Dodgers, Padres, etc. I'm sure Boston will chime in, too. All those teams to really focus on for Ohtani. Absolutely. Thank you for the donation. What would you offer Ohtani next year? I not what I would versus what I think will happen is that I don't know what Machado's going to get personally. I Machado's definitely looking for a bat. Machado's going to be like what 30, 31 around there when he can opt out. So he's still going to probably be looking for north of a 10-year deal. And Ohtani, I'd expect Ohtani to get upwards of $500 million. I really do. I think he's that valuable from a market standpoint. I think he's going to break the market completely. And then 2 years from now, as long as he stays healthy and produces, I expect Juan Soto to do the same because Soto turned down a $400+ million extension as is from the Nationals before getting traded then to the San Diego Padres. Unbelievable, Wardy. Yeah, I know. Again, this entire thing has been nuts. Good afternoon to you too, my friend. I don't see how the annual physical clause is accurate if it was that offer would have been long ago rejected by board. We don't know that though, CD. You would think that, but we don't know. We can sit here and make assumptions, but we still don't know. So I can't confirm nor deny that, right? I'm just telling you what has been made out publicly now by Michael Marino. And the contract, like I said, for let's see, the contract again, guaranteed 6 years is what the Mets offered, but it could have been 8. Yeah, like you said, the Mets' final proposal was a guaranteed 6-year, $157.7 million. It would have paid him $210 million over 8 years and $315 over 12 years, non-guaranteed. So the 8 years, though, I'm curious as to what would have gone him 210 over 8. And still, though, naturally, you can understand why Correa wouldn't do that when he's getting guaranteed 200 over 6. You know, his entire thing is just crazy. I trust Cohen. He didn't make his billions by being stupid. Something's up with his ankle. We all know there's something up with his ankle. We just don't know what. Thank you for the dono though again, Edwin. I appreciate that. Keto says Joker planted a cell phone in that ankle. That's funny. Are you worried that we just went through all this BS with the word being other owners got pissed at us for our spend? Now, no, I'm not worried about that at all. Other owners were not a factor into this. I don't believe at all. No, that's not a worry of mine at all. My only worry right now is the Mets seeing if they can still, make a proper move at all this offseason for a a plus bat, a potential solid defender. It's not going to be a third though. It's not. So it seems like the Mets are going to ride Beatty and Escobar heading into the season. I just don't see how they get an upgrade there at this point. There's no one else out there. At least I'm thinking of. No one should be downing Uncle Steve. Diaz and him locked to rebuild the balloon, and Verlander. Escobar is a good third base. Eddie's okay. I love Eddie, but I mean, I would have heavily preferred Eddie as a guy that was off the bench or as a DH, more of a utility guy versus playing. But again, who knows? Maybe Brett Beatty will be that guy for us. Maybe he will. But that's a wait and see still. And I hate uncertainties are always the big bugaboo for a team in a win now stage right now. Let's see what you guys are saying in the poll right now. We'll go from there. And we're only 200 likes away from 500 in the live show. Continue smashing that like and subscribe button. And thank you guys all so much in advance. Always, always appreciate it, folks. So let's see. Interesting. Okay. So out of 500 votes here in the live show, 7 minutes in, 37% of you guys say I'm pissed, not at the Mets, though. 12% say I'm pissed at the Mets. 28% say happy he isn't a Met. And 23% say pissed at Correa and Boris. Okay. And thank you everyone for the kind words as well. Not only over the weekend with everything that happened with me meeting Cohen, but just in general on the channel and in the live show today. Know that I really do appreciate every single one of you guys. And, through the highs and the lows, I always enjoy knowing that I get to talk with, hundreds going to thousands upon you Mets fans like we do in the live show right now and for people on replay. So know that I do appreciate every single one of you guys. I'm very happy to have you in here to have this discussion. Okay, address that already from Eric. Do you think the Mets make a push for Trey Mancini or Adam Duvall? I think the Mets are destined to land one of those free agent bats still, but that's something that was believed that they would be doing regardless of Correa. Could they maybe be more adamant about just doing it now? Yes, but at the same time, I think if they can find something that is worthwhile for them in the trade market, they're definitely going to consider it. But it's tough now, though. It is tough. That's the thing. There's no other guy out there like Correa. If there was another player out there similar to Correa, where he wasn't just a top player at a premier position, but he was willing to shift to third base, or again, if Manny Machado was available right now, it would be a completely different discussion. The Mets wouldn't even be in on Correa, you know? So it just given the time frame and where everything is laid out this offseason as is, with players available in the free agent market versus what's available in the trade market, that is what makes this trickier for how this team combats and pivots going forward. Looking forward to Verlander drilling a rib cage next September by accident, of course. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm sure they're good friends. But I appreciate the donation, no less, Dash. Thank you so much for that one. If anyone's going to do it, it's Max, because Max doesn't give a fuck. That's the guy who I would think of first. It would be Max. And just so everyone knows, there is a solid chance that we will also be live again later tonight for the Bleav in Queens podcast, because myself, Anthony Recker, and Joe Serralo, we are going to hopefully do a podcast later tonight as well. So this will probably be only one of 2 times that I'm live today. So make sure to stay tuned for that. So we want to hear Recker's opinions. We want to hear Joe's opinions. So stay tuned. That'll come out. That'll be happening later tonight, or if not tonight, then definitely tomorrow at the latest. But I think we're going to try to do it tonight. Won't be surprised if Mets take a look at Brian Reynolds' trade now. Mets could pick between Beatty or Mauricio and just keep whoever they like more. Yes, but if it holds true to what the belief is, what the Pirates want, take the Correa highlights off the screen. I want to vomit. I know. If there's one thing I will say, this will be the last time you see Correa highlights in a video on the channel. So there's that. I'm going to keep him running, though, because it's about Carlos Correa. I'm not going to take it down. Won't be surprised if the Mets. Yeah. So I think the Mets, my concern with the trade route, besides the obvious that the Mets do not want to give up this type of prospect capital and assets, is that the Pirates supposedly want top pitching prospects. And again, what do the Mets lack quite a bit? It's pitching prospects, having depth of pitching prospects too. They do not have a lot on that front. You have Blade Tidwell, right, who they just drafted last year. They really like. They have, They have Dominic Hamill, who we actually had on the channel and interviewed 2 months ago. Not even. They have Calvin Ziegler, another solid pick from the past 2 years. That's the head of their starting pitching prospect pool, and Matthew Allen, who's been out with injury. Could the Mets consider Allen? Yeah, but I feel like the Pirates would want more because Allen hasn't really even started his pro career yet due to injury. So again, it's a tricky situation on how the Mets would go about the trade route, especially if they try with Reynolds. I'm not nearly as optimistic about the Mets doing a trade for Reynolds until proven otherwise. I'm really not, and that's something that I emphasized a lot previously. Ramon, thank you so much for the donation, the kind words. I appreciate that, my friend. Happy to have you in here. Jeffrey, thank you so much for the $2 donation. Again, for everyone that's just chiming in, as we know, Carlos Correa has left the Mets before his tenure even started here. And now he's with the Minnesota Twins on a 6-year, $200 million deal with potential $270. I love how someone says, nobody listen to this clown. I'm out. Enjoy another losing season, Mets clowns. I love that. You know, if you're not even a Mets fan, then get the fuck out of the stream if you're going to be a dick. I mean, it's that simple. That's an easy block. You think I care? Like, it's so stupid. Jurickson Profar is a guy that I know that the Mets have liked. Whether they land him or not as a fourth outfielder utility type, I don't know. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so according to Ken Rosenthal, guys, and for people that are watching this on replay, I hope you made it this far so you see new information. According to Ken Rosenthal, Correa breakdown per sources, Correa is making $36 million in the first 3 years of that contract. That's $10 million more per year in the first 3 years than what the Mets were offering. $36 million in year 1, $36 million in year 2, $36 million in year 3, $31.5 million in year 4, $30.5 million in year 5, and $30 million in year 6. Numbers the first 2 years include $8 million signing and Numbers the first 2 years include $8 million signing bonus, half to be paid in 2023, half is going to be paid then in 2024. Holy shit. Again, Twins are desperate. Twins are desperate, and they know they need a super. The Twins don't have any star players on their team aside from Byron Buxton. Byron, people are going to rag me on this. I believe that Byron Buxton, when healthy, is one of the best talents in baseball. I have always felt that way. He's found his potential. But again, similar to Correa, Buxton has so much risk with his health, unfortunately. So, yeah, the concern was that the Twins would be desperate here. And here we are. Just crazy. The amount of times we've talked about Correa, man, over the past roughly 3 weeks, just for this to happen is nuts. I still can't get over the fact that the Mets wanted a physical every single year with Correa. Like they really were concerned with that ankle after seeing it. And naturally for Correa and Boris, they were probably like really, you'd have to imagine that they were insulted by this. Regardless on how accurate the Mets are with their risk. I still just can't get over that. That's insane. That's just fucking nuts to me. And apologies for the profanity, guys. Let me see. Did I miss a donation? I don't think I did, but let me check. Oh yeah, I did. Oh no, I didn't. Okay. All right. So what we know, Correa is offered $42.5 million more of guaranteed money than what the Mets gave. Correa, no opt-outs, 6 years, guaranteed $200 million, with potential of $270 million based on vesting options throughout those first 4 years. Front-loaded contract making $36 million per, including an $8 million signing, $8 million bonus. And half of that, so $4 million of the 8 will be in 2023, and the second half, the $4 million, second half, the $8 million, I should say, so another $4 million will be in 2024. The Mets offered $26.5 million over 6 years. Potential of the contract to be 8 years, $210 million, based on certain things in that contract, and could be 12 years, $350 million still, but that would all go in hand with making sure he's healthy, probably vesting options involved in that too, and him getting physicals every single year, which would dictate if the Mets would stay true to that contract. So, from Boris' standpoint and Correa's standpoint, if I was Correa and I was offered that contract where it's like, yeah, we'll give you guaranteed 6 years, you'll make around close to 10 million less for the first 3 years than what you're getting from Minnesota, and you're going to make 42.5 million less in the 6 years here than you would with Minnesota. But there's potential for this to be a $350 million deal if you stay healthy. And during that time, we're going to give you physicals every year and all this. If I'm Correa, I would want the guaranteed money too. Aside from, let me take my bias away. If I'm not a Mets fan, right? If I'm in Carlos Correa's shoes, I would want that Twins deal too. $36 million for the first 3 years instead of 26.5, and not being given mandatory physicals to dictate my contract status every year. Yeah, I would want that deal too if I was in Correa's shoes. So it feels like the Mets really, really have concern. It doesn't feel like, we know they have drastic concerns with that ankle. And in doing so, allowed the Twins to get back in the fold here. And the Twins gave a contract offer that was more appealing to Correa right now, even if it's not the $350 million over 13 years that he was hoping to initially get with the Giants, which feels like light years ago. But yeah, from doing it on this standpoint, you get what I certainly understand why Correa took that deal. I do. from the monetary standpoint and not having to do with the mandatory physical just blows my fucking mind. I still that one is still just so hard to comprehend for me. Like, how bad is that ankle, man? How bad is that ankle? Hold on, guys. I'm just checking to see if there's any updates. The deal with the Twins is pending physical. I know. Heyman did report, however, that the bulk of the physical is already taken care of. I don't know what the bulk of the physical is. Maybe just the clearance on the ankle. But yeah, Correa is going to be a twin. That feels pretty obvious. It's wild. 150 likes away from 500. Continue smashing those buns, and thank you so much in advance, guys. Greatly appreciate it as always. Let's see. Yeah, the poll's still about the same out of, getting north to 1,000 votes. 36% say I'm pissed, not the Mets. 14% say I'm pissed at the Mets. 29% say happy he isn't a Met. And 22% say pissed at Correa Boris. His physical is happening right now, I'm sure. This gives Beatty a chance to prove himself a lot. And I really like Brett Beatty. This was never about Brett Beatty. You know what I mean? Failed physical, signs 3-year, $85 million with the Orioles. Yeah. The duality of man. I see a comment here saying team is a joke. And right after it says Mets absolutely did the right thing. I love Divide always cracks me up. Let's see. Mets absolutely did the right thing. If you have an ankle that can end you at any time during a play, you can't get too picky with a contract that big. And again, for Correa, like, I'm still going to get the best bang for my buck possible, regardless on where I go. Yeah, for getting guaranteed the 6 years with no opt-outs is all you need to know. Because for the Mets here, this was essentially having a potential opt-out after every year, a team option, not a player option. If there were anything of significance that looked wrong with Correa's physical, the Mets could opt out of that deal. That's like just I'm sorry. I know I'm repeating myself a lot. Again, I'm doing this in part because I know new people chime in the live show. But just that's just so baffling to me. And I'm curious too. I'm really curious, like, if what would the Giants have been like this too? Would other teams be as anal about a long-term investment and the risk and making sure that you're insured that risk the way that the Mets were? I'm curious what the Giants type of contract would have looked like if the Giants had this 2-3 week time of negotiation the way that the Mets have. That's something that we're never going to know, obviously. But man, it's just so interesting. And Kyle, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Happy to have you in here, especially as a non-Mets fan. And I know Cohen won't stand around, Steven. He of course won't stand around. He's working. He will be able to do this. Yeah, Cohen is going to figure something out. We just don't know what now. We don't know what. And if the Mets make a big move before the season begins, awesome. If they don't, will I be drastically, like, crazy surprised? No, I won't be. Because I know that the free agent market is not what it was. There's no one else out there that's a Carlos Correa-esque player when it comes to value. By turning down the Mets proposal, Correa chose not to gamble on himself as a bingo. Yes. Yes. And again, if you're in his shoes, you don't blame him. I don't blame him for that. Like if I know that every team doctor I've went to throughout this offseason over a long-term standpoint has basically said, yeah, we have major concerns with your ankle. He's well aware of that. Okay? He knows that there is risk with his ankle. But for him, in the best interest of him, not only as a player, but for his family, revenue-wise, he's going to make sure that he can still get the best offer out there. Okay? And KDS, thank you for the kind words. It's from a Braves fan. I appreciate that a lot. Happy to have you in here. I don't care who you're a fan of. As long as you guys are hopefully enjoying the show, interacting, having good conversations, it's literally all that matters to me. Even if we have disagreements, that's fine. We do that. Like I said, we have people in here that agree with me, and there's people in here that don't agree with me, and that's okay. But yeah, I agree. It is telling. But you understand it from the Mets side point. They clearly have major concerns, and you understand from Correa's side. Did I see the New York Post article? Which one? I've been in the past 3 New York Post articles, which is very cool. I'm grateful for that. From when I met Cohen. Literally, the only reason why I got in, I was even on my quote with Cohen was on SNY last night too. The only reason why I got there is because no one else got a quote from Cohen over the past 3 weeks, and I just went up to him and asked. So that's how it happened. I'm grateful for it, though. I'm going to frame it on my wall. It just, it's, you know, it's like bittersweet now, if that's the right terminology, because it was cool, awesome experience, but it would have been so much nicer if like talking with him about Correa then leads to the Mets signing Correa, and they didn't. So here's my only issue from John. If you're gonna wait 3 weeks to negotiate while other players are coming off the board, you better have a backup plan. The Mets have things in mind for backup, I'm sure. Okay, it doesn't change the fact though, John, that during this time frame, the players that have come off the board essentially are all players that are perfectly fine if the Mets didn't land in free agent market or trades. Perfectly fine. Do you want to argue about Gregory Soto with the Phillies? I mean, he's another Jose Alvarado. Again, if they can get his control right, flame throwing southpaw. But again, understood why that didn't happen. AJ, the only move that has happened over this time frame that I thought would be a fit for the Mets, but again, there's other bat options out there in the outfield that can do just fine, was AJ Pollock. AJ Pollock was the only guy. And who knows how much interest the Mets had in AJ Pollock, if at all. The Mets did not miss much during this process with Correa. Jose, this Mets. All right, let's expand for a second, guys. We all know the Mets offense is good, okay? But we also know that the Mets offense, unless things change somehow internally with prospects, are not a team that you're confident of getting you over the top down the stretch in postseason, because they proved that they were not able to do that on a consistency standpoint last season. The Mets have plenty good pieces, but as Cohen said it himself, they're just a piece away. There's a missing piece out there. And that is what Carlos Correa felt like he was going to be. He looked like he was going to fill that void. So that's the thing. It's just the fact that there are not many other options out there. Trade-wise, I mean, offensively, you have your fourth outfield options, but trade-wise, there's not a lot of guys out there that are realistic at all. Not having protection for Alonso is the biggie. Could you get that protection with Alvarez as the year goes on and when he's called up, assuming he doesn't start the year with the Mets? Yes, that's possible. Um, but you could also have it happen where maybe you get it from Beatty, possibly. But again, these are still uncertainties right now that we don't know. Michael Marino just tweets the following. Xander Bogaerts received $280 million from the Padres. Dansby Swanson got $175 from the Cubs. The Mets' final offer for Correa was $157.5 million of guaranteed money. That's shocking. Physical concerns or not. And again, that's only guaranteed if he passes his physical year after year after year in those 6 years. It is shocking. And I will say Ken Rosenthal was right. Ken Rosenthal was right. He reported a while ago that the contract would be dramatically different than what the initial offer was. And even though it was a non-guaranteed $350 million over 12 years, the fact that it was non-guaranteed is what made it so drastically different. David, thank you for the dono. David says, where we dodge bullet, let's work on Manny Machado, who in my opinion is a better fit at third base next year. Who is his agent? I'd have to imagine it's Scott Boras. I don't even know off the top of my head, but I'd go out on a limb and say it's probably Boras. Again, the Mets are going to be doing work with Boras year after year after year. That's, that's like a non-factor for me. Thank you for the dono, though. I appreciate that. How about ending the offseason with Duvall, McCutchen, Mancini, Voit, and Chafin? Nah, I only see the Mets getting one of those potential bad options. Not two. It's this point on Correa, but not much we can do as fans. Oh, of course, there's nothing we can do as fans. We're just fans. If we could do something, we would have done it. Thank you for the dono, though, Dev. I appreciate that. Let's see. This is a funny comment because I get what you're saying. Non-Mets fan, but I love baseball. That Correa thing, the physical every year is basically like someone taking a drug test from their probation officer. Literally. It's like every year to gain that physical done. Let's check out that ankle, Carlos. Let's see how it's looking. Crazy. Hold on, guys. I'm just checking something real quick too, making sure that I'm not missing updates. Crazy. SNY Bears signed Keith too. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, guys, we are going to be live again more than likely later tonight to talk further on this. Hopefully by then we get a little bit more clarity, through social media reports. I'm going to read up on a bunch of different reports and stuff like that during the time. But I just want to, let everyone know that, again, we will have a podcast coming out later today, and that will be on in audio after the live stream. So for people that like to just listen to audio podcasts, that will be available in audio. Probably later tonight, at some point. Rory, you should have a literacy test to get on your cast. That would weed out all the Braves. Thank you for the donation, Pat. I appreciate that. And again, we have perfectly kind Braves fans here in the chat. Not everyone is kind, but I've seen some very nice Braves fans. So that is not To anyone that's been a nice Braves fan, I appreciate you guys. People that haven't been nice, and that goes directly to you. That's a funny comment, though. Less than 100 likes away from 500. Continue smashing those buttons. Thank you guys so much. And we are probably going to be we are going to wrap up the live show, guys, probably in the next, we'll probably wrap up the live show in the next 10 minutes, I would say. There isn't too much more to harp on right now. This is going to be the story of the day, and I want to make sure that I have some further comments to share on the podcast later tonight, too. The Twins also just made a trade. They've acquired right-hand pitcher AJ Alexy from the Nationals in exchange for minor league right-hander Christian Jimenez. So the Twins are making moves. Why did this have to drag out, man? That's all I got. So why did this have to drag out? That's the biggest thing for me. Like, I get why it dragged out, but still. Guessing your comment is only read if you donate. No, that's not true. You got to understand, it's easier to follow along with donations because for shows like this, we easily have over 1,000 live viewers. So it's not as, I can't answer every single comment. I apologize. That's just nature of the game when we have as high viewership as we do, which I'm grateful for. But unfortunately, the counter is that I'm not able to get to every single comment. So I just try to get as many as I can. Yeah, again, who should the Mets pivot? No, I don't think the Mets are going to do any pivot for third base. I don't. I think the Mets, I think they're going to chime in on Bryan Reynolds. I really do. I just don't think it's realistic right now either. I don't. If Steve Cohen goes madman and says, fuck it, we're going to overpay now because Bryan Reynolds is a great outfielder. You can put him in the corner and put Canada then on the bench. And he has multiple years of control still. And he's been healthy his entire career. And overpay prospect-wise, the Mets could do that. They could. But are the Mets going to be able to top a trade over, say, Yankees? I could see them topping, honestly, because the Yanks are stubborn with their prospects. Like, very Cashman's always been stubborn with his young talent. Like, really stubborn. But, like, are the Mets going to just say fuck it now and overpay trade-wise? I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? Everyone in the live show right now. What do you guys think the Mets? Do you think the Mets are going to now go and overpay in the trade market, or do you think that they're going to probably just sign a fourth outfielder and run this offense aside from that as is with a Brett Beatty on the roster next year? And Alvarez, maybe even if he doesn't start the year, will be with the team at some point. What do you guys think the Mets are going to do here? Because we're going to talk endlessly about this. I'm going to come out with content, I assure you. Plenty of other things. Steve just sold his Apple stock. What? But yeah, I want to know what you guys think right now. Again, I find it hard to believe that they will We're definitely going to do videos on trade options now. That's for certain. I'm annoyed that we have to. I was really just hoping that we would have Correa be done, make some other smaller moves, and then bam, your offseason is done. But now it almost feels like the offseason like just began again. Because now all this speculation possibilities open up once more on how do the Mets pivot, if at all. What's up, Grant? How you doing, brother? Make sure, guys, everyone, please make sure to follow Jenny Mets on Twitter. Over 50,000 followers. Absolutely awesome Mets fan account. Yeah, I don't know what the Mets are going to do. I really don't. The Giants and Mets had obvious concerns. We don't know what they saw, but both team doctors saw an issue. Mets, in my opinion, did the right thing and stood their ground. Pat, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Kyle. I appreciate that. How you create your graphics and overlays on live videos. I mean, that's just thank you so much for the donation. How some of it I haven't made on my own, so I can't fully comment on that. And others you just use normal editing software. Simple as that. I mean, literally from like common, whether it's Adobe, PicMonkey, things like that. But I have not done everything myself, so I can't comment fully. But I appreciate the donation, though, and the support. So thank you so much for that. Are the Mets really mad about this? The guy have a rod in his leg, and you're mad because the Mets didn't sign him? I mean, we're just disappointed, Kashawn. It's as simple as that. I mean, the guy has a rod in his leg. Okay, well then the counter is he has a rod in his leg. Then why did the Mets even offer him a contract in the first place? There's reasons as to why Correa is going to be a very effective player still, and for the years to come. But what the Mets found out again after doing this long negotiation process is that there's real concerns, significant concerns, far bigger, greater than what they realized to the point where they were going to freaking mandate a physical for this guy every single year that would dictate the contract. So yeah, every Mets fan has a right to be annoyed, bothered, upset by this because of how long this dragged on and how much we were under the belief that he would be a Met. Okay? Every fan has a reason to feel away. Whether it's good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. Everyone has a right to have their emotions and opinions. Especially if you're like me, who spent basically the past 3 weeks retweeting Twitter like a mofo, constantly following and constantly for me as a content creator, constantly making content about Correa too. I mean, like just try hoping that you're gonna find out news at some point sooner than later. Now it happens, of course, and it's the news that a lot of us didn't want to see, regardless on if it's going to be the right move in the end or not. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, I think we're going to wrap up the show now. We are going to more than likely be live later tonight or tomorrow at the latest to expand further on Correa and what is next for the Mets. I think that's really going to be the highlight in our next podcast of Bleav in Queens. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I want to thank everyone once more that chimed in the live show. For people watching live or on replay, thank you, thank you, thank you. It really does mean a lot. Again, breaking news: Carlos Correa is going back to the Minnesota Twins after looking like he was going to be a Giant, then a Met, and now he is back in Minnesota. So there's going to be a lot more to talk about on this front layer today and then tomorrow. Then we'll get into, of course, what's next for the Mets, what type of pivots further, what options are out there, and all that kind of stuff. So again, I know that this is a frustrating time for a lot of us Mets fans, but rest assured that more moves are going to be had. Whether they will be to the magnitude of a Correa-esque player or not, that's a completely different question, but they will be making more moves before this offseason ends. We just have to find out what. But again, guys, thank you all so much for your endless support. As always, really, really really love and appreciate you guys to death. And like I said, we'll be back later tonight, more than likely, with the podcast. So have a good one, folks. Carlos Correa, Minnesota Twin. Now let's see what's next. Peace out, folks.